What is going on, everybody? Happy Friday. Hope you're all having a great one. Going to do my normal thing while I rattle through my picks for a few minutes. Say what's up when you get in the chat. Always good to hear from everybody. I'll address everything, but I'm going to start off with what I'm prioritizing on this slate. It's currently not a lot different, but we have to wait for information. So I'm probably on DraftKings not going to be heavily invested in the first game because I want to see what happens with Trae Young. I want to see what happens with about a million other guys that we don't know what's going to happen. Something happens to Shea. Every extra half hour you can buy yourself, like I know Shea's game is a little later, but the Trae Young thing is obviously just a massive piece of information. And we just have to find out about these injuries and what's going to happen with them before we really make our commitments. But the guys I am committed to playing, I will have Conley and or Clarkson in probably all my lineups still currently. Now, things could change if we get some other guys out, and maybe I could do some different things. But overall, I think that's just a good strategy. I also will be mixing in Nickeil Alexander-Walker with Trent Forrest out. You're going to probably see those minutes go to Pascal, but it's my only worry. So I wouldn't lock in Alexander-Walker, but I would have him in, and then I would be ready to shift to anything else that comes up. And I'm mostly going to be on the later games. Devin Booker, my favorite play on the slate for GBPs, obviously. I think you want to get some exposure to Brooklyn if you don't want to play Durant, which I'm okay with Durant, but it's really hard because all the guys in the same price range are right there. And they're all in great spots, including him for one reason or another. But I kind of like the idea of going to guys who are in a great spot, who are a little lower, like McCollum, like Booker. You can play some Joval. You can play some Jackson Hayes from that other game, DeJounte Murray. I kind of would rather go a little bit of a tier down, although Murray's priced like the other guys, so he's not a great example. But I think that if you're not going to play Durant, one of Brown, Claxton, Dragic, or Drummond, I think I would lean – and Curry. I think I'm leaning to play a little bit of Curry and a little bit of Dragic and a little bit of Claxton and a little bit of Drummond and a little bit of Brown. I think it's one of those guys, but I don't – or two if you want to. But I just have a hard time seeing that game stay very close. I don't mind Chris Dunn as a value play, by the way, on the other side. But I just think it's really hard for that game to stay close. And if it does, you're probably going to get a monster game from Durant. Now, even if he goes off and puts up 75, other guys will do that. And other guys in 9 whatever K will score 60 to 65. It's just going to happen. That's just the nature of the way NBA works. So I'm gonna be into that, that point of view. I think RJ Barrett and Julius Randle more on FanDuel, but they stand out as pretty obvious plays. And those are sort of my main. The other guys I'm sort of filtering in, Maladon, Garland. But again, it's really going to be waiting on information from the later games. So the main first focus is, if you want to put a Luka, Embiid, Harden type of thing together, great, let's do that. Two of those three on, one of Luka with one of the others. But I don't think we need to look for value in that game as much. And I might end up with one on FanDuel of like a Kleber or a Powell lineup. But on DraftKings, I just would much rather play like even Claxton, who I feel like is thin. But I'd much rather play other guys that are in later games that I can at least see the Atlanta news and decide what I want to do from there. Because that is a big, big, big piece of news, the Trae Young thing, obviously. With that, what's up, MJ? How you doing today? And let's go through what you guys are doing. Drop in questions. I'll be here till probably for another 25 minutes. But drop in your questions, drop in your thoughts, and let's figure this out together. So it's really going to be, get in Discord, ask questions if something comes up and there's a different starting lineup or if somebody's out, because it's just going to happen. On Wednesday was one of the rare times it didn't happen, but we actually have like legit questionables a lot of places tonight. Which also makes them good plays if they play. Like Trae Young is a good example of that. Ja Morant's a good example of that. There's just so many good spend ups that I'm going down and really loading up on Booker. Obviously, the Conley Clarkson is going to be chalky. One of McCollum or Joval or Jackson Hayes because I want exposure. Maybe a little DeJounte Murray, Rudy Gobert. I'm gonna take a shot or two on the Kristaps Porzingis revenge. I'm going to play the one standout that I do have at the top. I do think Jokic is the best play. I'm not saying that it's like an automatic or anything like that because they're all so close. Like Jokic, Durant, Harden. Harden has the low-owned one, which I really like. Embiid, Luka. These are all great plays. It's not like we're talking about a huge difference. So my way of getting different is to try to play the Devin Bookers, CJ McCollums, Rudy Gobert's, guys more in the 7K range and to 9K ranges, Jason Tatum, not in the same lineup, but Jaylen Brown. That's just sort of the range that I'm focusing on today. And even if it bites you and they score 80, like you could still get there if your guys get 60. And that is completely in the realm of possibility. Just keep that in mind. So good to see you too, Sensei Jay. It's been I feel like I haven't seen you as much lately. So good to see you as always. Torey Craig, where in the hell did that come from? I need to understand where this is. This is just a person who's just strictly a game watching thing. I think it is. So you're playing Torey Craig with the hopes that Crowder is out again and that somehow Torey Craig has the night of his life. If Crowder's out. If Crowder's in, Torey Craig isn't going to play much. And we don't know what's going to happen with Crowder. Looks more likely that he's going to play than not. So that just leans back to, no, you don't want to start. You shouldn't have a build that has Torey Craig in it. But if he ends up starting and Crowder ends up out, then you can include him if you're playing the later games, as I'm suggesting. I don't think there's anything to say or do with, you're not playing Torey Craig going into this 12-game slate as a play. He was a play last time because he ended up starting because Crowder was out. With Crowder in, like, even if he plays minutes, like, he doesn't need to be perfect. He literally was perfect. You guys know that, right? He was 8 for 8 from the field, 3 for 3 from 3. He also had 14 rebounds. He can rebound pretty well, but he doesn't have to do anything at all, like when he's on the court in general. And it's just a terrible, terrible play unless we know Crowder's out, which again, just speaks to my point. Use placeholders for these guys in later things. Yeah, I guess you can use him as a placeholder to see what happens later because there's going to be information, but I don't think that's a way you should be building. And by the way, maybe it works. Maybe Crowder does sit and he plays. If Crowder sits, absolutely, Torey Craig's in play, assuming he starts again, which I think he would. If he doesn't, it's like a terrible, terrible play. Oh man, that makes sense, Sensei Jay. All right, well, I'm filming high school sports. I would like to know what that entails some other time. That's kind of interesting. Ooh, I've got a big putt coming up from Fitzpatrick here. Oh no, just a terrible eagle putt by Fitzpatrick. Am I getting to DeAndre Hunter? It's all going to depend on what happens with Atlanta. I don't even want to address Atlanta until 7:30 or 7:15 until we get their starting lineup and until we know whether Trey's playing or not. I think he's fine anyway. You can absolutely play him, and it's not a bad play. But the whole Atlanta situation might just be 1,000 times better than DeAndre Hunter if we lose Trae Young. And I think it's a legit questionable with Trae Young. I do think he'll try to give it a go, but my guess is that my thought is that it's a legit questionable. Otherwise, it wouldn't be happening. Wow, that's a shot I've never seen before. All right, keep popping in questions, keep popping in ideas. Like what I was saying about the Torey Craig kind of thing, you can't just look at game logs and assume this is not the same situation. We need to lose Crowder for anything to happen, and then you also need him to have the game of his life again now that he's more expensive. When he was 3,100 in chalk, it made a lot of sense as a starter when we didn't have the value that we were hoping for. Right now, playing 4K for Torey Craig in a bench role where he might play 20 minutes is like literally like the worst thing you could possibly do. The only thing is it does allow you to save till later and then play other guys. We need to know about Indy's frontline situation. Batate, I would have some interest in him for sure. I want every center against Houston. If Batate's out, I'm into going to taking some shots on Terry Taylor and excuse me, my man Jalen Smith. But we just need that information. Until we have it, it's really hard to do much, which is why, again, the name of the game is probably to fade any value in the early game. I think you can play Luka, and again, Cleaver might get there. Again, I'll leave him in one FanDuel lineup probably, or Powell. But you're only playing the spend ups, in my opinion, in the first game. It's really silly to play any value when we have other stuff. Like if Trae Young's out and you play Maxi Kleber, so does Maxi Kleber then become a better play than DeLon Wright? With especially Gallinari's questionable too, and if Gallinari's out, Hunter's a better play as well. Kevin Herter, Bogdanovich, obviously, everybody on that team basically becomes an awesome play without Trae Young. So That's where I'm at for that. And by the way, if Trae Young plays, I want to bet the over. The problem is I wanted to put that on my bets, but with the Q tag, it's kind of hard to do that. Davion Mitchell is not a guy you should be targeting, but fits the same category of the other guy we just talked about. Is there a reason why you're trying to dumpster dive so far? He's completely a guy, but it seems like you must be trying to play like 4 like minimum cost guys to play up for 2 studs. It seems like a pretty predictable lineup. Davion Mitchell, again, feels like a game log watching thing, but I actually believe in Dave. I mean, I actually think he's good. Terrible matchup, terrible situation. But it's a later game where you can pivot off to better value. And if somehow De'Aaron Fox, who's questionable, doesn't play, then he's like a lock. You know what I mean? Which goes back to my point. You're trying to delay. If you don't treat poker sorry, I said poker almost. It's like poker. You are playing on 12 game slates in basketball where the last game is at 10 p.m. You're playing the slate all night. You're not putting in something and running off to dinner and hoping it works. You could do that. You'll lose. You'll be a losing player. Every now and then you'll get something right and you'll feel good about it. But for the most part, that's a very losing proposition. You have to play these slates. It sucks, but it's basketball. That's why there's a huge amount of edge, by the way. But yeah, that's where I'm at. Booker with DeRozan, love it. Booker with Vooch, love it. Booker with Levine, love it. I want that game. And again, later slant. So I can pivot over from my DeRozan, if I felt like it, to, in my forward spot, I could pivot over to Sabonis, or I guess it would have to be utility, but to Sabonis. If De'Aaron Fox sits, and then you have enough. So you try to play a couple of the value guys depending on what happens early. Again, if nothing happens in Atlanta, nothing happens with any of the other games, which is really hard for it not to. I mean, if Batate plays, I like Batate. I guess you can use him as value early on. But if he doesn't play, oh boy, like, you know what I mean? Like you have some other options. Like, and even if he does play, he's not as much of a lock as the numbers are treating him like, but at least that game is at 8 Eastern. So I'm going to always side with the later starting games until we get more information, which we just simply don't have. And it's not like we can speculate all we want. This is a different type of situation. Like, you know what I mean? Like we have to I don't know, you can't just have plays locked in and ready to go right now. You want to know who your spend ups are. Like I said, what I'm doing with my spend ups already. And you want to know what you're doing as placeholders. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if Deni Avdija is going to make my lineups, but at least I have my extra 30 minutes to see what happens with Atlanta to decide whether or not I want to pivot from him to someone later on. And that's the way I'm going to keep treating it. Like in all my high buy-ins, and I'll leave some weird value in some of my lower buy-in large field stuff. But mostly I'm going to be trying to delay and get better and better information. I do like Fred VanVleet on both sites. Don't mind him at all on either side. I actually have one of my 3 big lineups with Fred VanVleet, so I am totally on board with that. But I really like that Booker combination with those Bulls, but also keeping in mind that we can adjust those once we see who's actually playing. You know what I mean? That's part of the advantage of playing those guys is you get to play. So include a Davion Mitchell. Don't include probably Torrey Craig as a placeholder, because I think it's likely that Crowder plays. But if you want to, go ahead. But it's a placeholder. You should be ready to substitute that guy out. You're just doing it while you're waiting for information. Keep popping in questions, guys. We got no sheets today. Sounds like he's not doing anybody doing well in golf. I've got some good line. I'm 12th in the single entry and the $200. I have my one FanDuel lineup. Get this, has Burns, Thomas, Hadwin, Vegas, Pereira, and then I don't know what I was thinking. I wanted to pivot off of some other things, and I ended up playing Lanto Griffin. I don't have a good excuse for it, and it really hurts. really, currently that one really stings a little bit. So that's where I'm at on that. But yeah, definitely some shots going into the weekend. I do have some Neesmith lineups I just need Norin to make the cut. Somehow Neesmith ended up in all my Norin lineups. So I kind of need Norin to make the cut, who I believe is 2 under still. But that would be huge because I have Neesmith with a lot of other very, very, very goodness. And I have Norin Norin got to 3 under. Okay. So he's got 4 holes left, but I've got Neesmith with Perez, Hickok, Schauffele, Morikawa, who I expect to pick it up on Saturday. But the Schauffele, Neesmith, Hickok, I know Hickok didn't end up with like a great round like it looked like he was going to be, but still really, solid for 4% owned guy at 5 under right now. Anyway, that's my stuff. Kispert starting, not Deni. I know Kispert started last time, and Deni Avdia scored all the points. It doesn't really mean anything to me. If I was playing 150, I would literally rotate Kispert, Avdia, Ruri. I like Avdia better now that he's not starting, to be honest with you. But I do like Kispert a little bit. Like, I don't like any of these guys, but Avdia would be the one I like the most, and maybe Hachimura, because they're actually good basketball players. They're trying to make something out of Corey Kispert. I believe he's a good college player, and I think that's where his NBA career will leave him, a little bit like a Garrison Matthews. But he's on a better team than Garrison Matthews, so Garrison Matthews even gets a little bit more usage than Corey Kispert does. But yeah, I had that in my projected starting lineups was Kispert starting. Yeah. All right. Any other questions or thoughts? Seems like it's kind of quieter. It's sometimes on Fridays, it used to be like Friday was the day. It'd be hundreds of people piling in and everybody's got all the big games. Lately, I'm noticing like a little bit of a trend. Maybe people are enjoying their lives more a little bit. Maybe because we were doing this during a pandemic for a while, but it definitely is quieter. Keldon Johnson is a really good tournament play, but should be treated as such. Like, don't expect, this. And Green Monster, I understand where you're coming from, and you ask these questions a lot. You can't. I hope it's not coming just from a chasing place, because every question you're asking feels very chasey. But Keldon Johnson, I believe, is the real deal in real life. So I think there's value to playing him, but I don't think you should expect anywhere near the results he's been having. I think that he should be more of. I would like to play a lot better, to be honest with you, if it was on a smaller slate. But because it's a big slate, you're going to get low ownership. So I have no problem playing Keldon Johnson, but I'm not going to personally, just to be honest. He might end up in like one of my smaller buy-ins. Bam, I have no interest in Jashawn Tate. Not really sure where that question comes from, unless I missed some piece of news. Jashawn Tate is just if you're going to play him tonight, there's no reason not to just, if you're a guy who plays Jashawn Tate every night, play him tonight. There's no logical reason to play him tonight. It's less of a reason than usual. They have more guys playing, and his production and his mode is more out of there. But if you want to just take a weird shot on a guy, sure. There's no logic behind it. Bam is a very strong play, but I will not have any Bam tonight. And also, we don't know about Jimmy Butler playing. If Jimmy Butler's out, then I will have a lot of Bam tonight. So as of right now, I don't have any Bam. By the time the slate locks, I might have some Bam. I'm more interested in Kyle Lowry's price on FanDuel and even a little bit on DraftKings, personally. But I don't think Bam, is like a lock, or I think he should smash. I don't know if this game stays close. I don't know if they need him to smash if everybody plays. But if these guys are out, then Bam becomes an awesome play. So, and they very well may sit against OKC. Why wouldn't, that would be the time to sit if you're going to sit somebody, is it against OKC? Talen Horton-Tucker is out. LeBron remains a game time decision. I don't really know if that does a lot for me for the Lakers. There is some value to like a Westbrook on, I know you guys can go off on me or whatever, on FanDuel at 6,600, because Talen Horton-Tucker gets that second usage work, and maybe they'll use Russell more in that mode. That's the only way that I really think this matters. I guess you can say it gives also the similar bump to Carmelo and Malik Monk. And both those guys are fine. Just on a big slate like this, I don't know that I need to do anything with it. All right, guys, if we don't get any more questions or thoughts or what's ups or anything in the chat, I'm going to get out of here. But, there we go. Podol or Drummond on FanDuel tournaments. Neither of those guys those are not the same price guys. I don't understand that question. But I love Sensei J, so I'm going to try to see why that question could possibly come about, because you should never be leaving on a 12-game slate 1,000 on the table or thousands on the table. Podol, and what is Drummond's price on? Drummond is a long shot tournament play. Podol is in a great. Podol's in an okay spot. I like Drummond for large field tournaments. They're totally different prices. It doesn't make any sense to me on FanDuel why that would ever be a question. But I wouldn't be playing either of them, to be honest with you. That's my thing. I like Robert Williams. I think it's a large field play. It's not a play you should have as like in your biggest lineup or single entries or things like that. But he's a guy who's a good upside play. Do I like Murray McCollum on stack? Yeah, I do. I actually do like that stack. I'm very into Devin Booker, as we talked about earlier tonight, but I do like that little Murray McCollum stack. I totally can get behind that, or Murray and Joe Val, but I think the Murray McCollum is a solid one. I like that. Am I game stacking any games tonight? No, you could game stack, but it's mini stacks for me. You know what I mean? It's like where I'm playing Luka on FanDuel, I'll play either Harden or Embiid, and I'm only doing that a couple lineups, only the spend ups. You know what I mean? If I'm going to play Trae Young, I'll play him with Ja if he's in, and now Ja Morant is expected to play. If I play DeJounte Murray, I'll play him with McCollum. You know what I mean? That kind of stacking. It's not more full game stack, but again, it's early. If Atlanta announces that Gallinari and Trae Young are out, then we're loading up Atlanta. You know what I mean? And that game just becomes a stackable game. It's going to be hard to stack the Memphis side of it. You could always play the Ja Morant if he's out, but I mean, if all the guys are out, I don't know that I'd really want to get involved with the Memphis side. Maybe Desmond Bane, but it's a team stack, and I would want 2 or 3 Atlanta pieces if Trae Young and Gallinari are out. So it's hard to know at this moment. I guess other ones that could come into play, maybe a Garland versus Jokic. I could see that being a profitable one. Maybe a Kristaps Porzingis revenge versus either Randall or Barrett. I can get behind that one. LeBron with VanVleet or something like that. I can get behind it. I'm just not doing it. Maybe you can play a Brogdon with a Kevin Porter Jr. I like that a little bit, but I don't want to go. I don't want to stack the whole game. You know what I mean? I'm just talking about high spend ups that I'm pairing together. I think the one that it is, like, if you're going to play Bam and you want to spend up on another weird guy or a weird guy who's going to be unowned. If Bam will be really high owned if we get Butler out, but Shea, who I think is genuinely questionable. And then, by the way, that's going to dictate this whole slate as well. This is why you just are not playing value in the first game if you're any good at this. It doesn't matter if they get there sometimes. Every now and then, Kleber will have an outlier 30-plus fantasy point game. Every now and then, you'll get Dwight Powell's weird 50 the other night, which that's really every now and then. That was his best game ever. But why are we trying to force in this value when we know there's going to be other stuff that opens up? So if you're going to play anything in the first games, stick to the studs. And really just the first game, because by the 7:30 lock, we'll know about Atlanta. We'll know about, I guess that's pretty much the most important piece. And we'll know about anything else we don't know about. Like, well, I guess LeBron, what if LeBron, all of a sudden, LeBron is out? You know what I mean? There's a slate changer for you. And we're stacking up this game and hoping it stays close, probably. There's just a lot of slate changing decisions that we really can't. I think it would hurt us to speculate on without any more. I'll speculate on the ones I think, but you're just delaying. You're playing the guys who I'm mentioning, and partly why I like the Bookers and the Tatums and the Browns. They play the latest. I can always adjust. You know what I mean? Low cost forward in the 4K range beside Brisset or Batum, who I guess, by the way, I'm always the guy about talking about playing Batum. I don't really see, though, like, that absolutely does not stand out to me at all. The other one is more dependent on whether or not Batate is available for me, the Brisset. But in terms of, you want another forward in the 4Ks on DraftKings, I'm assuming it's DraftKings. I'm always going to assume DraftKings unless you specify FanDuel. So please don't ever assume that I can read your brain, because I can't. I try, but I'm not able to. Honestly, Gallinari, if he plays, is probably my favorite. No, I mean, including those guys, my favorite one in the 4K range. You could do the weird Deshaun Tate thing. Again, there's no logic behind it. You're just, kind of, okay, well, he's had some good games in the past. I'll play Deshaun Tate. That's what you're doing with Deshaun Tate. He's absolutely fine. It's a good matchup, but guy who might play 20 minutes, hasn't put more than 21 fantasy points since the beginning of the month. I don't know. That seems like a really terrible play to me, but it's just one of those things that if you find yourself, there must be people finding themselves stuck in this range for some reason. And I don't know. I'm just not one of them. I don't see it. I'd rather play Trey Lyles or something. Again, later game. That's actually the right answer. Trey Lyles is the right answer, and then you just wait. Zubac bday game. Okay, guys. So Zubac in a terrible matchup in a situation where he got played. Let me just so the Clippers play to win every game, right? Zubac didn't even play in the playoffs. He ended up getting benched and playing like 2 to 4 minutes a game against Utah because they went small, and that's how they were able to beat Utah. And then what I did as a tournament player, I made him my captain every game against Phoenix, and he had 2 games that won me a ton of money because I knew they would have to play their big against Phoenix. You don't need to play a big against Gobert because Gobert doesn't do anything inside. He rebounds and he defends if he doesn't have anybody to defend. But they want to space the floor. My guess is the Clippers will treat this game similarly. I don't think there's any way in the world Zubac would end up in one of my lineups tonight. I don't see that world happening. In Utah, yeah, I'm just not doing it. You guys, let's not do the cards thing. James, whatever is going on with that. Melo and Ellington out. Okay, I didn't get that piece of news. Why did I not get that? So we're going to have to wait for some projections to update on that one. But Malik Monk, as much as you guys hate him on FanDuel, Russell Westbrook, Austin Reeves is in play now on DraftKings. Are we sure that Carmelo Anthony and is that official? Can I get a confirmation on that? Because I just have my news thing up here and I still don't have that as news. So let's just make sure that that's a real thing. MJ, can you verify that is in fact for real, or can anybody verify? It's not, I can't even see the screen, so it doesn't matter. I understand. If I do that, then I can't see anything. Let me see. Oh, it actually is official. There you go. Thank you, Mark. This feels more like a LeBron sits to me. Like, just sacrifice the game. If they're playing 3 and 4, they are basically almost locked into their playoffs or whatever, their play-in spot. This feels like a throwaway game, possibly. So again, the only thing I'm going to say about this is this delay. It's not the most exciting or sexy answer, but to say the wrong thing now, why don't we wait to see starting lineups? Dwight Howard is probably in play now. If LeBron is out, Dwight Howard's in play. If Dwight Howard starts, he's in play, but he's not if he doesn't. Guys like Wenyen Gabriel might end up coming into play. That's going to be one I'll have to dive deeper in based on the starting lineup and based on who I know is playing, because that did catch me off guard. So I appreciate that one, Mark, and I appreciate MJ Grandy. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm just trying to think for a second how this works. Sadly, it probably means minutes divided to Bazemore, Ariza, and those bunch. I think it boosts Monk, maybe Reeves the most. Boy, I don't know if it's going to be enough. And the most of the low end. Of the upper spends, it does really help LeBron and Westbrook's final output. So if you were thinking about LeBron anyway, and if you're going to take the speculation, and if we hear that he's playing, I think you can go ahead and play LeBron much more comfortably, because you do lose usage with Horton Tucker and Carmelo. But you got to hope this game stays close. And because I like Toronto anyway, I probably would want to run it back if I was going to play LeBron and not play a naked LeBron. If that makes sense. Because you're needing the game to stay close, which means against this Laker team, VanVleet is my favorite. But Trent, Pascal Siakam, Scotty Barnes, one of these guys goes off in this game if the game stays close. My favorite, though, are the orders I said. Tyler Hero, good long shot tournament play. Need the Jimmy Butler news before you can confirm anything on that. We don't have that, so really, really hard to do anything with it. Appreciate Mark again for getting the basketball news up there. I couldn't read the screen for some reason. It wasn't zooming in enough, and now it's perfect. And I'm going to get finishing to building my lineups, because I don't think that's going to be a game changer for me for the Lakers until I see at least a starting lineup that might be different than what I expect. Dwight Howard does seem like he might become more of a play, but the truth is they could just play Bazemore and Ariza the same minutes for those guys. It just means more usage for everyone around, and the usage guys in this team are Monk, Westbrook, and LeBron. So take that for what you will, because that's a really weird situation. I don't know if we've had those guys out, but it's been a while. And I think Davis was playing that. I don't remember where Horton Tucker and Melo, and then lately we've been giving a bunch of minutes over to Wayne Ellington. So that is going to change things a little bit, but I don't think that's a game changer for me. Any other thoughts, guys, before I leave? I got about another minute. I'll give you guys a minute here to do it. I mentioned the Tyler Hero thing. I think it's a long shot tournament play at best. Always can get there. Just nothing outside of Jimmy Butler possibly sitting steers me towards him. But remember, when Jimmy Butler sat, Kyle Lowry sat, and Bam Adebayo sat, there were still games that Tyler Hero didn't get there. Very shooting dependent. Great matchup for it. Doesn't necessarily get to close. He's like probably too good to like get the blowout run if it's like 25, 35 points or something kind of a thing, but probably gets like the early blowout run and can always shoot his way into a game. If he keeps making, 60% of his threes, yeah, he's a great play. I can't promise you he's going to make 60% of his threes. I would say Buddy Hield and him would rank similarly for me, but Buddy Hield, we guarantee is going to play 36 to 30 to 40 minutes and Tyler Hero plays 28 to 32. So it's a little bit, that's the way I look at it. Unless we hear Jimmy Butler's officially out, which is definitely possible. Favorite centers on DK. I'm just going to look at my lineup so I can answer that one. I like Gobert a ton. I like, if you're going to spend down, I think Claxton's a reasonable value to take a shot on because they have blowout upside too. I like Vucevic as a run back with Booker. Batatse, if he's playing, is my other value-y one. I like Joval. But I think Gobert is the one I feel best about, I guess. All the other ones have a ton of questions. And Jokic and Gobert. Just a question of how you're building lineups. Jokic, Gobert, and Embiid are all phenomenal plays. And by the way, you can use LeBron as a center. Center's a little bit weaker. I like Sabonis a little bit. I like Bam a little bit. A lot of guys I like a little bit. Not a lot of guys I love. But again, I'm also playing the delay game, so most of my guys are slanted towards the back. So like Joval versus Vooch straight up tonight. I think they're right about the same. Vooch is going to be much lower owned and starts 2 hours later or an hour and a half later. I'm just going to start off with the later guys and then go from there. And Gobert, same thing. At least he only starts 30 minutes later, but Gobert is just an awesome play at 7,400 anyway. Christian Wood's fine as well. These are all solid plays. I think DeAndre Ayton's a good long shot play. A lot of guys who are just like good, but not great, except for Jokic. And I think Gobert. Jimmy Butler is out. Okay, so that means we are going to fire up some Bam, Lowry, and then you could definitely play some Hero. I'm not going to, with all candor on DraftKings, but maybe he'll find his way into one of my lineups because he can just shoot his way into like a monster game. But if everybody's going to play him, I don't really think I'm going to do it. I think I'll probably lean more towards the Lowry and Bam side of things. Yeah, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, absolutely. Like I do like Nickeil Alexander-Walker. So yes to that question, but I would like to see what's happening with our starting lineup. There's a chance he starts and becomes like a really chalky play, but it might be too late for people to do that. Eric Gordon's out too. Okay, we kind of figured that was going to happen. But yeah, the Jimmy Butler thing. What is it? Just Butler who's out? Let me take a look at the updated thing. So I don't have the Butler updated as out on this particular injury list. So I'd like to know what's happening with the other Heat guys who were questionable. There it is. Jimmy Butler out, Caleb Martin in. Now we just need to know about PJ Tucker. PJ Tucker will play. So basically everybody who's playing for Miami deserves a little nod. I'm just going to take a quick look and see who they're going to start. I think Caleb Martin is a better play, but I think you can use it as an excuse to play like the Duncan Robinsons, the Martins, the Stresses, because any of these guys can shoot their way into a game, and the difference between them and Hero is they don't cost 7,300. Now Hero's obviously going to have more opportunity, but one of these guys tends to get there when one of the big ones is out for Miami almost all the time. So just keep that in mind for what it's worth. We do have Markieff Morris back for what it's worth too, and I kind of forgot about that one. So maybe not quite as good for those guys, but just something to, for large field stuff. Anyway, guys, I appreciate you guys all being here. Mark, really appreciate the help. Check out the site. Please remember to like before you leave. And I'll be in Discord trying to answer questions, and I'll be building my lineups. Good luck to everybody, and hopefully we'll see some of you guys at the top of the leaderboard tonight. Good luck.